The avoidance nervous system is wired to interpret emotional pursuit as danger. Every text asking where they stand, every conversation about feelings, every attempt to define the relationship sends alarm signals through their brain that scream, "Escape now before you lose yourself." They've learned to associate someone's emotional needs with their own suffocation and loss of autonomy. But silence creates the opposite effect. When someone stops pursuing, stops demanding answers, stops trying to extract emotional responses, the avoidance nervous system finally relaxes. The pressure valve is released and they can breathe again. Without the constant threat of emotional overwhelm, their defensive walls begin to lower naturally. In this state of relaxation, the avoidant can actually access their genuine feelings instead of being trapped in reactive mode. They are no longer spending all their emotional energy defending against someone else's needs, which means they have space to examine their own. Silence gives them permission to miss someone without feeling trapped by that missing. The irony is profound. The very thing that makes avoidance pull away when it's present becomes magnetic when it's absent. The person who was once pursuing them with words and emotions now becomes mysterious and intriguing through their silence. The avoidant finds themselves wondering what their person is thinking, feeling, doing, and this curiosity often compels them to break their own silence to find out. Silence forces them to confront their feelings without external distraction. When someone goes silent, the avoidant can no longer blame their emotional withdrawal on their partner's neediness, intensity, or demands. They can't point to someone else's behavior as justification for their distance. The silence strips away all external reasons for their avoidance and forces them to sit alone with their own emotional landscape. This confrontation with their inner world is both terrifying and necessary for the avoidant. Without the familiar distraction of managing someone else's emotions or defending against someone else's needs, they're left face to face with their own feelings. They begin to realize that their discomfort isn't about their partner's behavior. It's about their own fear of vulnerability and intimacy. The silence becomes a mirror that reflects their own emotional patterns back to them with startling clarity. They can no longer pretend that their partner was the problem when their partner is no longer saying or doing anything at all. The avoidant must confront the possibility that their issues with closeness are internal, not external. This forced self-reflection often leads to genuine emotional growth, as the avoidant begins to understand their own attachment patterns without the distraction of relationship drama. They start to miss not just their person, but the version of themselves that felt safe enough to be vulnerable, even briefly. Silence makes them question their own importance and impact. The avoidant's sense of self-worth is often tied to their ability to affect others emotionally. They want to matter deeply to people, even when they can't reciprocate that depth of feeling. When someone pursues them, argues with them, or gets upset about their behavior, it confirms their significance in that person's life. But silence threatens this source of validation because it suggests indifference. When someone stops reacting to the avoidant's behavior, stops trying to understand them, stops fighting for their attention, it creates an existential crisis. The avoidant begins to wonder if they ever mattered at all, if their presence or absence makes any difference in this person's life. This questioning of their importance often compels the avoidant to reach out, not necessarily from love, but from a desperate need to confirm they still have some impact on their former partner's emotional state. They need to know they haven't become completely irrelevant, that they still possess some power to affect this person who once cared so deeply about them. The silence forces them to confront the possibility that they might have become truly forgettable, that their carefully maintained emotional distance didn't make them mysterious and desirable, but simply unimportant. This realization often motivates them to break the silence themselves, seeking reassurance that they still matter. Silence creates space for genuine missing rather than reactive avoidance. When the avoidant is being actively pursued, they can't distinguish between missing someone and feeling relief at their absence. The constant pressure of someone else's emotional needs makes them associate that person with stress, obligation, and loss of freedom. They convince themselves they don't miss their partner because they are too busy feeling overwhelmed by their partner's presence. But silence allows the avoidant to experience genuine longing for the first time. Without the interference of emotional pressure, they can actually feel the absence of their person's love, their comfort, their understanding, their unique way of seeing the world. They begin to miss the positive aspects of the relationship instead of only focusing on the suffocating aspects. This authentic missing is a revelation for the avoidant, who may have never experienced clean, uncomplicated longing before. They realize they actually do care deeply about this person, that their withdrawal wasn't about lack of feeling, but about feeling too much and not knowing how to handle it safely. The silence teaches them the difference between wanting someone because they're being pressured to want them and wanting someone because their absence creates a genuine void. This distinction is crucial for the avoidant's emotional development and often motivates them to reach out from a place of authentic desire rather than reactive guilt or obligation. Silence shifts the power dynamic and makes them the pursuer. The avoidant is most comfortable in relationships where they hold the emotional upper hand, where they're the one being pursued, where they can control the pace and intensity of connection. When someone goes silent, it completely disrupts this preferred dynamic and forces the avoidant into the unfamiliar position of being the one who wants more contact. This role reversal is both uncomfortable and intriguing for the avoidant. They find themselves in the position they usually put others in, wondering what someone is thinking, wanting more communication, feeling uncertain about where they stand. This experience gives them empathy for their partner's previous position, while also triggering their own pursuit instincts. The silence transforms them from the pursued into the pursuer, and this shift often awakens feelings they didn't know they possessed. When they have to work for someone's attention instead of receiving it automatically, that attention becomes more valuable and desirable.